Good evening, and I'm back. You can see my face now, as I've promised. So in this video now, I want to share my autobio. It's just a brief autobio, and it might involve some elements of childhood trauma story that I'm planning to share in some later video. But here is what I wanted to share with you today. I was born in Odessa, Ukraine. It used to be Soviet Union back when I left it in 1989. And I was born in 1970s. It's a city on Black Sea for those of you who might not be very familiar with that geography. I grew up in a roomy apartment building that was actually built during Stalin's era, I was told, and it was a two-bedroom flat-like apartment that was shared with some neighbors in the hall. Some of them moved out later on, and we just had one neighbor sharing it with like 6 of us eventually. So we lived together with my parents and maternal grandparents, and then my brother. And I occasionally visited my paternal grandparents who lived not so far away, maybe 10-15 minutes walk. I did not have my own room, and I was sharing the room with my grandparents, maternal ones, and I slept kind of in the corner, and I did my homework there, but of course I was allowed to be in other areas. I started school number 59 at about age 7, and then I transferred to school number 16 after, I believe, like when I was around 8 years old, because my friend said, "Oh, it's a better school." My mom bought these walkie-talkies, and I'll give you one, and then we could talk if you decide to move there. So I guess I moved to that other school, which was down the block. But I did walk to school alone, and it was kind of scary at times because I was just a kid, and there's some weird people walking around because there's this the train station nearby, but I didn't have to cross it, so that was okay. So my brother was born when I was about 10, and then my parents got divorced when I was 13, and he was like 3, almost 4. And so mother later remarried, and we continued to live in that same apartment with our stepfather now until maternal grandparents got their own place, which was kind of far. Had to travel by streetcar for almost an hour. So they moved. I don't remember how old I was. And we continued to live in the center of the city on Pushkinskaya Street, which is it used to be very pretty. And at the end of it, there's a park and a port. But we were on the other end of it. And so going back, sorry, I sometimes drift, away and start sharing something else. So I started learning British English with private tutor when I was about eighth grade because in school I was learning German, and our class, we had a class leader. Just one of the faculty would become a class like coordinator of activities, whatever, and she was also teaching us German. She was from Latvia, and other kids in other grades were getting English, and unfortunately I didn't. So uh, our my family decided that it would be good for me to start to learn English because I guess it was already in the works that it would be immigrating or fleeing the country. I didn't know about it, but I knew that we wanted to reconnect with the rest of the family who were fortunate enough to flee the country 10 years before us in 79. So I continued going to school number 16 till like I was in the middle of 10th grade, and then that's when we left for US. We left Ukraine, fleeing the country to come to San Francisco Bay Area. And we got here in August of 1989. We had to immigrate through Austria and Italy. And unfortunately, our documents were a little bit lost, so to speak, for a few months. But we were able to recover it. Actually, my mother, she was really, she did a lot to recover them because the grandparents actually were let out a few months earlier. So we made it to Bay Area in 1999, and that's when, like, very soon after that, the earthquake hit, for those of you who know that time, and that was kind of scary, but we survived. So I was put in to go into 11th and 12th grade after they looked at my documents of what was completed by me in Ukraine. So I was going to newcomer high school, which was kind of far from where we were renting an apartment. And I had to take also like a couple of buses to get there. Fortunately, it was just for one semester, and then they transferred me to my neighborhood school, which was Lincoln High School in the Sunset District. Excuse me. And my brother, he was put in Robert Louis Stevenson because he was younger. He's 10 years younger. So for some reason, my aunt offered me her house to live in because the apartment that we all stayed in, there was like 6 of us. And so she lived nearby in the Sunset, and she had her own house already. So she let me live in one of her rooms. And I graduated in 1991, and I applied to different schools, and I was taking a lot of ESL, English Second Language classes, and I was trying to get as much of language skills as I could so I could be accepted at different schools. And I applied. I actually even applied to school in Maine, Portland, Maine, because my father apparently immigrated there. I didn't know. He left Ukraine also with his other wife and went to live in Portland, Maine, which was across the country. But at that time, I already connected with him a little bit, and so I almost ended up going there, but my mother did everything she could to manipulate me to come back to Bay Area. So I applied as a pre-med student, and I was accepted at the state, SF State and University of San Francisco and San Francisco, excuse me, and University of Southern Maine. But after trying to be with my dad, it just wasn't working out. So I came back and I ended up living with my aging grandparents. And my mother, while I was coming back from Maine, apparently took her things together with her husband, my stepfather, and my brother and left to go live in San Diego, which was a total surprise to me, but I might tell you later why that was actually done. So she kind of abandoned me. I know I was already 19, but there was no explanation, no warning, nothing like that. So I just came and I stayed with my aging grandparents, and eventually they moved to the projects because they could not pay for rent, and they were not wealthy. They were receiving support, governmental support, so as refugees, and they moved to the projects, and I mostly stayed with them, and we kind of helped each other. My grandma would cook, and they would give me the car. Grandpa paid for car lessons so I could drive. So I was driving his old Chevy to school. I chose University of San Francisco, and it was actually not very far away. They lived on Fillmore Street, and I was mostly with them, and I did manage to finish the school, and I had to borrow a lot of money, so I applied for financial aid, and I was very lucky to get a lot of help, but I also had to borrow loans, which I already repaid later. So in 1996, I graduated, and my grandpa, my dear maternal grandpa, passed away. By that time, it was a very, very sad and frightening time for me. I'd say because it was the only one really from my family of origin that was kind to me and understanding more or less, and didn't ever hurt me. So it was a big loss for me. He passed away in May 1996, and I graduated in December 1996, and I by that time I met someone and I started dating, and he would become my husband. So I was dating and moved to a very small, like a studio apartment on Judah Street, and I started seeing a parapsychologist lady, very, very intuitive and kind, and she helped me. She helped me a lot. She's still helping me. And so I was just looking for a job. It was a difficult time for me, and I was preparing for licensing exam. I passed in 1997 and became an RN, and I got my first job then around 1998. So I worked mostly like around the city and got married in 1999 after dating for 4 years, and we're still married. In 2001, our son was born in San Francisco, California, and 3 months after his birth, my maternal grandma passed away, which kind of put me into deep depression. But this is content for another video. But after she passed away, I just mostly continued working and parenting, and we lived in San Francisco apartment close to SF State, where my husband was studying, and I left that area because my husband commuted to Milpitas for a while, for like almost 6 years, and it was very difficult, the commute and working together, and also the schools that we were looking at, the public schools for our son for kindergarten, they assigned us to very unsafe neighborhoods, so we started looking in the South Bay, and we moved to Cupertino in 2006. So we lived there for a while. Our son was going to kindergarten and also the elementary. And after that, we moved to some other area. But before I tell you this, I still want to say that at that time I started working in hospice, and my nervous system health was really declining. I was very stressed, and by that time I also hurt my back in 2008 on some school field trip. I lifted something, but I left nursing in 2008. So I worked like 10 years or so in various healthcare settings. Gave me a lot of different kind of experience. However, my mental health and my physical health started to decline. I wasn't quite sure why exactly, but that's what was happening. But this is probably part of this content. It would be good for some other video. So we moved to live in San Jose in 2011, and there our son finished all his schooling, and he was accepted into to attend first City College and then University UCSC, and we moved to Santa Cruz. We moved to Santa Cruz right after COVID and the Lightning Complex fires, which was in 2021, and we've been here ever since. So this is just the brief bio. I hope you find it interesting. The reason I wanted to share it is because I want you to have a bit of information about me personally and connect with you on more personal level. I hope you found this interesting, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.